Hello, Daphne here with such an interesting post today titled 3 Catastrophic In-Flight Aircraft Failures. But before we get started, I'd like to cordially invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel here. And if you like what you hear and see today, then a like would greatly be appreciated. And for future notifications when we post new content, just click the bell. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, can you imagine this? When you, as a passenger on a flight, heard these words, brace for impact. I have 3 million miles, well, actually approaching 4 million miles in the air, and I just can't imagine the terror I'd feel in my heart hearing an announcement like that. But anyway, our first true story starts off like this. In 1982, a British Airways flight took off, a 747, from Kuala Lumpur to Perth, Australia. It was a beautiful evening, and they expected a totally uneventful flight. But I can tell you, it was anything but. Imagine this, it was nighttime over Indonesia when this Boeing 747 jumbo jet, cruising at an altitude of 37,000 feet, began experiencing sulfur-smelling smoke spewing through the air vents into the cabin. Then the unthinkable happened. All 4 engines flamed out, one by one. The jumbo jet lost all its power and turned into a descending glider. Whew! As they were descending downward, the captain estimated 30 to 40 or more attempts to restart the engines. But there was no luck. So the plane actually turned into a descending glider. And finally, the captain had to go on the PA system on the plane and make an announcement. And this has to be categorized as one of the understatements of the century, if there ever was one. Quote, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have a small problem. All 4 engines have stopped. We are doing our damnedest to get it under control. I trust you are not in too much stress." And here's a picture of Captain Mooney. I cannot imagine such calm under such incredible pressure. As the sulfur burning smell continued to fill the inside of the cabin, with St. Elmo's fire engulfing the plane and no engine power, this jumbo jet continued losing altitude. The captain and his crew had no idea what had caused this catastrophic problem. As the plane descended towards certain disaster, Captain Mooney and the crew had attempted again to restart the engines with no luck. I should say over and over again they made that attempt. As the plane approached a very low altitude of 13,500 feet, the captain began considering a water landing in the Indian Ocean. The problem was that no pilot had ever attempted such a landing in a 747. Before ditching the plane at that incredibly low altitude and with not much time left, the captain made one more try at starting the engines. Miraculously, one of them started, so it enabled him to climb slowly. Then the other 3 restarted. So what did he do? He headed for the nearest airport where a 747 could land, and that was in Jakarta. So they headed there, but as they did, one of the engines flamed out again. stopping the hearts of the captain and the crew once again and hoping that they'd make it to the landing strip. They did. They landed to absolutely thunderous applause by everybody in the everybody in the cabin. And I can only imagine how loud it was and how relieved everyone was. After the successful landing, the pilots and crew inspected the plane, but they could not figure out what had happened. Eventually, the cause of all the engine failure was determined. That 747 had flown right into an Indonesian erupting volcano, Mount Galunggung, which sent volcanic ash and smoke high into the atmosphere. BA Flight 9 flew right through it. Since it was nighttime, they could not see they couldn't see it coming. So they had no chance to avoid this potential disaster. Radar could not detect volcanic ash or smoke or clouds, as a matter of fact. So anyway, Captain Mooney to me is a hero for saving that huge 747 and all those passengers on it. The definition of a true hero. Okay, well, from there we go to another interesting one. But please, I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel here. It would be a great privilege to have each and every one of you watch our videos. So thank you for doing that. A commercial passenger jet runs out of fuel over the Atlantic Ocean. What happened? In 2001, Air Transat Flight 236 lost all engine power. Yep, there it is. Over the Atlantic Ocean on its way from Toronto to Lisbon, Portugal. Can you imagine something as bizarre as this happening? Faulty maintenance by the ground crew in Toronto caused the fuel tank to spring a catastrophic leak. Very, very fortunately, the plane's captain, Robert Piche, was an experienced glider pilot. Those skills came in handy as he immediately used his glider pilot skills to steer this plane towards the nearest airport, which was in the Azores. As they approached the runway, 75 miles later, can you imagine that, gliding 75 miles with no fuel whatsoever? He asked the passengers to brace for landing. But the captain made a miraculous safe landing in the Azores. This became the longest passenger aircraft glide without engines on record. This hero pilot saved 306 passengers and crew on board. I mean, if that's not a hero pilot, I don't know what is. Following this unusual form of flying for such a large passenger plane, this aircraft got nicknamed the Azores Glider. So anyway, Captain Piche, you're another pilot hero in my book. Next up, we have, what is a bird strike? Oh, I got to show you a picture. I almost forgot to show you this amazing pilot. Here he is in the cockpit of a plane. Oh, gosh. What an amazing, talented, incredible pilot. With a lot of grateful people, that's for sure. All right. Next up, we have a bird strike. That's an event when the plane hits usually a bird or a bat and is referred to as a bird strike. It is known by a few other names as well, like bird hit and bird ingestion. There have been many cases of bird strikes over the years, but the one that got the most attention by far was U.S. Airways 1549. Back in 2009, an airplane, Airbus 320, made a miraculous landing in the Hudson River. The engines had all gone out. There was no power in the plane. But luckily, the pilot, Captain Sully Sullenberger, was very skilled. Shortly after taking off from New York's LaGuardia Airport, this large passenger jet was hit by a flock of birds. Both engines were disabled in this bird strike. Because this passenger jet was at a low altitude, there was no chance for Captain Sully to turn around and return to LaGuardia or proceed to any other of the New York airports. So he had to make a split-second decision. He figured that the best chances for survival for the crew and the passengers was to land on the Hudson River. Oh my goodness, Captain Sully felt like there was no other choice. So that's exactly what they did. They came in as they were all braced for landing. That incredibly scary announcement again, brace for landing. They came in at 3:31 p.m. at 140 miles an hour was when Flight 1549 touched down in the Hudson River opposite Midtown Manhattan. Quite incredibly, not a single casualty was reported. There is no surprise why this event is called the Miracle of the Hudson. Thanks to Captain Sully, and here's a picture of him, all 155 people on board survived. Although no lives were lost, this event did underline the catastrophic failure that bird strikes can actually cause to an airborne flying machine, even as large as an Airbus. Tragedies turned into triumphs. Would you agree that there is something very special about stories with a happy ending?